Looking for some of the top tech gifts this holiday season? As usual, there's a lot to choose from. Joining us from the Consumer Technology Association is Director of Communications, Jim Fellinger. Hi, Jim.
Good morning, Fred. It is great to be with you.
Great to see you and talking about the hot categories this year. What's on top?
Well, there are certainly a lot. Let's start with smartphones and tablets. This was something that really caught my eye this year. We're seeing a huge surge in interest in these already very popular products. Now, I think the question to ask is why is that? This has a lot to do with the changing nature of entertainment. So if you think about even my generation, how we grew up consuming our entertainment, generally we sat in the living room around a TV. And so the TV was really that primary form of entertainment. What we're seeing with younger generations is this shift towards tablets and phones and new mediums for consuming entertainment. And all of that is driving a very, very big push in these products around the holiday season. So that's one of many trends that I think is worth keeping an eye on this year.
Are there any surprising categories? Anything new that's creeping up on us?
Well, let me share one that I thought was particularly surprising. We're seeing a big boost this year in CD sales. Now, I think most of us have come to think of CDs as almost antiquated technology, really a thing of the past. We're seeing that nostalgia from consumers is driving a real push in these products around this holiday season. So I think that's another thing to keep an eye on. One other area that I'm watching really closely this year is gaming. Gaming has seen a really large surge for a number of reasons. The first of which being there's a whole generation of gamers from the 90s and early 2000s that have grown up and still utilize these products. But beyond that, younger people are finding different ways to game using things like online subscriptions, making their purchases online. So the accessibility of gaming has really driven a huge, huge boost in that category around the holidays.
I'm fascinated by the resurgence of CDs. I mean, to me, nostalgia means vinyl, and I guess that had somewhat of a comeback too.
It certainly has. And so I think what's going to be interesting to see over time, Fred, is how these trends sort of develop, how these nostalgia trends develop. Because maybe if you think to somebody in my generation 10 years down the road, something like an old cubed iPod might bring about some of that nostalgia as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes next and how this trend really develops over time.
And if you talk about gaming, there really aren't any new consoles out there right now, except for maybe the latest from Meta, if we consider that a console.
Well, I think, an interesting
strong
trend.
Sales.
Yeah, well, something I've noticed, Fred, that is particularly interesting is there's a lot of material being reused. There's a lot of gaming franchises that have either continued on in popularity or are pulling on the nostalgia of users from years past. So it's interesting. You're right. There aren't a lot of new products or consoles out there, but we still are seeing that surge in interest. And again, that goes back to the fact that people are finding new ways to game. It's not just in the living room anymore. It's something that's easier than ever to do, from your pocket, while on the road, from your phone. So the ways that people are gaming are really having an impact on the growth of this particular market.
And there is always a new phone, a new tablet, a new TV, incrementally better than last year's or the year before. What are some of the big attractions now that people are gravitating to?
So I think some of the categories that I mentioned before are really gaining a lot of attention. I think some of the biggest categories that we're seeing, beyond smartphones and tablets and these sorts of products, and beyond just the gaming is the fact that that primary source of entertainment that I described before, the television, is still very, very popular. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that televisions are becoming a lot more immersive. They're doing a lot more than they used to. So for example, from an accessibility standpoint, for older audiences, most new televisions now come with remotes that are voice controllable. Meaning that some of the complicated displays on the screen for older adults are easier to use via voice command. The way that screens are being now built with the degree of circular sort of front end nature, like there's just a lot that TVs are doing that they used to not do. And I think that that's helping to really drive a surge in interest. I think the other thing that I'm watching really closely are just some of the trends that we're seeing around holiday shopping this year and tech buying more broadly. We're seeing a record number of Americans buy tech this year. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that more products than ever have technology in them. So we're looking at, a grand total of 209 million Americans this year who are planning to buy tech. That's 81% of the population. Really big numbers, and just speaks to how much tech there is in the everyday products that we're buying.
Digital health, an important category as well, I suppose.
Digital health is an important category. And what's interesting is I think most people don't think about digital health when it comes to the holidays. But the reality is, particularly through health subscription services, people are able to sort of give one another the gift of health. And I think particularly within the family, when families make fitness goals with one another, it's helpful to have the tools and technology to do those things. So one area in particular that we're seeing a lot of growth in this year, it's actually the number 2 most sought after category from people who are looking for gifts this year, is wearable technology. So things like, the Apple Watch that I'm wearing right now, or Fitbits, or any of the other products that now come with health equipped technology. These are things that are really growing in popularity this season, again, because it's a great gift to give a close friend or a family member, especially when you're setting some of those fitness goals as a family or as a couple.
And all of this stuff sort of ties into smart home technology. Tell us what's new there, and the Matter standard that maybe has been a little slow to take off.
Yeah, well, let's back up there a little bit. So I think that's a great question, and I'm really glad that you asked it, because smart home technology has been, I think, on the cusp of success for a number of years now. I think if we think back to the 90s when smart home technology first started to really come out in prevalence, I think it was really thought of as almost an elite thing. It was something that wealthier households could have access to. It was much more limited technology. I think what we've started to see today is almost the normalization of smart home technology. Smart home technology that's being used in households across America to do things like regulate temperature, ensure that lights are going on when families aren't home for safety reasons, to monitor and power, home remote security systems, all kinds of really important uses that have become really, really practical. But I'm glad that you brought up the Matter standards. So technology standards are, for those who aren't familiar, they are essentially processes and rules put in place by technology companies that allow them to create interoperability. So it's essentially the little things that allow technology to work together. And of course, with smart home technology, this is incredibly important because we're looking at a bunch of little parts of a home that need to speak to one another and work with one another. And the idea behind the Matter standard is that we're starting to get more companies on board with building technology that more easily speaks with each other and operates more seamlessly. So rather than having to, operate several devices within the home, ideally with Matter, we're going to get to a place where everything can be controlled very easily in one spot. So in terms of what to watch for this year when it comes to smart home technology, I would really keep an eye on products that drive interoperability, products that make it easier for all the parts of the smart home to really speak to each other. I think that's something that's really exciting.
And of course, the CTA has CES coming up in a short while here, less than 2 months away. A lot of excitement building for that.
Yes, indeed, Fred. We are always excited to be back in our home in Las Vegas. Every January, we bring technology companies from around the world, large and small, everyone from the biggest brands out there, the Samsungs, the LGs, the John Deeres, great big brands, to those really, really small little ideas that just need an investment or just need to break through. That's always my favorite part of CES. We have one section of the show called Eureka Park, and it plays host to over 1,000 startups from around the world. And if you want to be inspired, if you want to get that reminder that there are still people in this world who really care about making a difference and really care about getting through with that groundbreaking idea, then Eureka Park is the place for you. It's inspiring. It's incredible. It's just amazing to be around that kind of excitement and ingenuity.
Terrific. Is there a place people can go to for more info on some of the hot gifts?
Absolutely. Well, you should visit our website, cta.tech. Check out our research anytime. And of course, with CES right around the corner, it's worth taking a look at the show. So go visit ces.tech. That's tech to learn more about our show and how you can get involved in the work you were describing before. You mentioned smart home standards. We have tons of companies, smart minds from around the world that come help us build these standards. We would love to have you or anyone else be a part of it.
Terrific. Jim Fellinger, thank you so much for spending time with us, and have a great holiday.
Thank you, Fred. Great to be with you.